Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at a brand new Mega Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Mega Garchomp. Mega Garchomp can be encountered through the Mega Garchomp Raid Day, either through in-person or through remote raids. As of course, we don't have Mega Master League as a current league available, I tested it out in some practice Mega Master League battles with members of my Discord, and oh my goodness, the damage this thing outputs is absolutely absurd. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's check out Mega Garchomp in action in the Mega Master League. Hopping into the first match, sending Metagross into Zekrom. This is a pretty decent matchup for the Metagross in the Zero, so I don't mind staying in here. Opponent does have the pacing advantage, however, as they make the Fusion Bolt before I'm able to make it to an Earthquake. I've built up to the Earthquake, but I'm baiting with the Meteor Mash. Meteor Mash bait into the Zekrom, does get shielded, and now in comes Kyurem. Dragon Breath hitting each other for super effective damage. I'm going to let this through. Opponent is going to be firing off another Fusion Bolt, and now in comes Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh going to look for the Incinerate farm down, but the debuffs from Glaciate is going to make that a bit difficult. Glaciate number 1 connects. Opponent looking for the farm, but Kyurem will deny it. Able to make it to another Glaciate. This will not KO, but it is going to get Ho-Oh extremely low. Ho-Oh leaves with 100 energy but minimal HP, so I can safely send in the Metagross to force them to throw their energy. And now it's time. Unleash Mega Garchomp. In comes Mega Garchomp in the back, it's Primal Groudon, and look at the Dragon Tails tearing through the Primal Groudon. Opponent tries for a catch, Zekrom gets absolutely deleted by Dragon Tails. Back in comes Primal Groudon. I will respect the Precipice Blades. Opponent baits with a Fire Punch, but I'm not baiting in return. Mega Garchomp going for the kill shot with the Outrage. Opponent calls the bait, and that's a good game. We see a negative lead in the next match. Metagross into Mewtwo. I save switch into Kyurem. Opponent is going to respond with Zacian. My goal is to throw my Glaciate right before they make it to a play rough, but the opponent does not build up to it. They go straight for the close combat. And since they do that, I believe I can make a play for switch advantage or grab a shield. As since my opponent is going to try and farm down here, they're not going to be able to do so before I make a second Glaciate. And due to the debuff, that actually gets the KO. So I win switch advantage. Back in comes the Mewtwo, and I'm going to align that Mewtwo onto the Mega Garchomp. And right off the bat, these Dragon Tails are absolutely shredding through the Mewtwo. Mewtwo goes for the Psy Strike. I continue to farm up with the Garchomp. Opponent making it to another Psy Strike. And you know what? I'm just double shielding. I'm going for the farm down here. Can Mewtwo make another move? They cannot. What's in the back? Opponent has Primal Kyogre in the back. I'm well over the Outrage, but I bait with the Sand Tomb, and I get the shield. Dragon Tails absolutely shredding through the debuff Primal Kyogre, and I'm feeling lucky. I'm baiting again. I get the shield from the opponent, farming up, switch into the Metagross, and I get the catch. That is absolutely massive. Surf will connect. They're debuffed enough that I should be able to get a KO with a Meteor Mash. Opponent, not going to let that happen. They go for the Surf. I'm one Dragon Tail away from the Outrage. Back in comes the Mega Garchomp, making it to the Outrage. Outrage will be massive overkill onto Primal Kyogre, and that's a good game. Moving to the next match, picking up a positive lead, Metagross into Rayquaza. And Rayquaza is staying in this matchup, so it looks like the opponent is core broken somewhere in the back by Metagross. Breaking Swipe connects, opponent save switches into Mega Glalie, and now we see why they had to stay in that lead matchup, as Mega Glalie really does not appreciate seeing Metagross. I decide to save the Metagross for later and send in Kyurem. Kyurem is going to be hit with a neutral avalanche, and that actually does surprising damage. Mega Glalie putting up a fight. I'm returning fire with the Dragon Claw. That connects. Can we get the farm down? Yes, we can, denying the energy from Mega Glalie. Is the opponent going to send in Rayquaza? No. They send in their final Pokemon, which is Heatran. And oh boy, Heatran is not going to appreciate the Mega Garchomp in the back. Heatran is now debuffed. I send in Mega Garchomp. In comes Rayquaza. Look at the Dragon Tails. Switch into the Metagross to catch the move. Those Dragon Tails were absolutely eviscerating poor Rayquaza. Oh my goodness. Opponent sends back in the Heatran. Heatran is going to have to throw a move, or I would make it to an Earthquake. I am super curious to see how much damage the Sand Tomb does. This Sand Tomb might honestly do 50% of its total HP bar. Let's see this. Sand Tomb, it actually did! It did like 50% of its total HP bar. Sand Tomb is not a high damage move. The damage output on this thing is ridiculous. We see an amazing lead in the next match, leading Metagross into Mega Gardevoir. Opponent save switches into Rhyperior. I could just send in the Mega Garchomp, but this feels like they're trying to bait it out. So instead, I'm actually going to bank the energy and send in Kyurem. Kyurem will be hit for super effective damage by this Breaking Swipe, but at the very least, I save the Garchomp for what I'm hoping will be something that it can beat in the back. I overfarm with the Kyurem and go for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw into Rhyperior will not be shielded. If the opponent sends back in the Gardevoir, which they do, I'll be able to make it to a Glaciate. Glaciate is going to connect, doesn't do a lot of damage, but at the very least, it will add up over time. I'm going to fully wait the timer since our switch clocks are misaligned, and let's see what they have in the back. In the back, they have a Dragon Tail Groudon, and look at this, the Groudon is hitting for super effective damage. I'm hitting for neutral, and the Garchomp is doing more damage. This thing is absolutely absurd. I build up to the outrage, I'm baiting with the Sand Tomb, and the opponent shields the bait. Oh no. At this point, I can just let this go. The win con is to farm down with Metagross. I can just farm down with the Metagross and leave with the double Meteor Mash loaded, and that will be game over, as unfortunately Mega Gardevoir managed to get the Metagross pretty low, but not low enough as Metagross withstands the charm damage. And this will definitely get the KO onto Mega Gardevoir. Very tough lead in the next match. Metagross into Ho-Oh. I'm going to throw one Bullet Punch and save switch into Kyurem. This way I get a small energy lead onto my Metagross without actually taking any damage on it. Opponent counter switches into the Kyurem with a Mega Steelix, and that is incredibly unfortunate. Just when you thought you couldn't get rid of Steelix in the Great League and the Ultra League, here it is in the Mega Master League. Opponent ends up shielding the first move, and I'm going for Glaciate number 2. This is not going to do a ton of damage. Mega Steelix does have quite a bit of bulk to it, but it doesn't have a ton of damage output. I've double debuffed them, so even if they Earthquake me here, I should be able to very comfortably tank a move. Opponent goes for the Earthquake. I wouldn't say that's very comfortable, but I am able to absorb that damage. In comes Ho-Oh. Opponent realizes that the Steelix probably has value in the back, and they send back in the Ho-Oh. I commit the shield. I get debuffed by the Sacred Fire. Opponent, this is only a Brave Bird. So I'm going to shield here, and because it can only be a Brave Bird, they've now guaranteed to lower their defense. So I can farm all the way down. I'm debuffed due to the Sacred Fire, but I have a massive amount of energy on the Garchomp. In the back, it's Dialga, and let the fun begin. This is a debuffed Mega Garchomp, but this is going to hurt. These Dragon Tails chunking through the Dialga, able to make it to an Outrage. And keep in mind, this has been debuffed. This Outrage damage is still no joke on a Dialga. In comes the Steelix. Steelix firing off the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe is going to secure the KO. I should have switched into the Metagross sooner. Honestly, I had lost count on the Steelix, but at this point, I think they're low enough that a Meteor Mash, despite being resisted, will be enough to KO. Dialga does not have a Draco, which means that since I have the second Meteor Mash loaded, I will be able to take that game. Moving into the next match, we've got some spice from the opponent, leading Metagross into Mega Alakazam. Alakazam, of course, can have access to Fire Punch and Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball would just one-shot me from here, so I will respect it, and they Fire Punch bait me. That's extremely unfortunate. I'm going to return fire with the Meteor Mash, get the shield, save switch into Kyurem. Opponent now going to send in Reshiram. Reshiram will be hit with super effective damage from both the Dragon Breath and the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw will be shielded by the Reshiram. Reshiram looking for the farm down, but Kyurem able to make it to a second Dragon Claw, and this will come very close to KOing. Dragon Claw gets Reshiram extremely low. Reshiram going to fire off the last second charge move, and I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to get farm on Mega Garchomp. In the back, it's Zacian, and this is a time when I really wish that I had Earth Power, as unfortunately with no Earth Power, this is a bit uncomfortable. I bank a ton of energy, I'm going to send in Metagross, and I'm going to no-shield here. Close combat will connect. Alakazam gets the farm down, and I'm going to send in Garchomp. I just can't afford to shield. I have to save the shield for a move from Zacian, and they go for a Fire Punch. I get the farm down, and I think this is just winning. If I just go for a Sand Tomb into an Outrage, I have this game won. Sand Tomb will connect. Opponent is going to be firing off their charge move, and I will commit a shield. Opponent goes for the close combat, and here I make a game-losing mistake. If I go for the outrage, it just KOs. But I'm thinking the win con is to go for the triple Sand Tomb. I get outpaced by a single turn, and Mega Garchomp will barely get KO'd by the close combat. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Metagross into Zekrom. I know that I win the zeros here, so I don't mind playing this out. I'm farming up, I go for the bait, and I'm so happy that I did. The opponent catches onto Therian Landorus, and that Meteor Mash does massive damage. I'm farming up with the Metagross. Opponent will go for the Superpower. Superpower does not KO, however, so I can save a move for later, send in the Kyurem, and snipe with Dragon Breath. Opponent does have energy. Oh my goodness, I was going to say they have energy on the Zekrom, but it's Mega Alakazam. It returns, and it's going for a Fire Punch. Fire Punch will be no-shielded, and I'm going for the Glaciate. Mega Alakazam can output some pretty nice damage, but it is very glassy. They shield up the Glaciate. These Dragon Breaths are absolutely shredding through it, and now I send in Mega Garchomp. These Dragon Tails, again, just absolutely shred even when they're neutral. Shadow Ball will be shielded. In comes the Zekrom. Zekrom has enough for the outrage. I respect it with a shield, and they go for it. I think this means I can just farm down. Look at the Garchomp go, and I believe they're short. Let's see. Am I right? I am. It's just the triple resisted Fusion Bolt, and Mega Garchomp gets the win. We see a very tough lead in the next match as I lead Metagross into Mega Slowbro. I'm farming up energy. Opponent now going to send in Solgaleo to the Kyurem save switch, and this is going to be really, really tough, as Mega Slowbro does have access to Ice Beam, which of course would hit for massive double super effective damage onto the Mega Garchomp. I decide to shield up the first move as I want to try and make a play for switch. I can't really afford to have the Slowbro stuck against the Metagross where it can't really do a whole lot. I continue to farm up. My opponent goes for the Iron Head, but this is heavily debuffed. I will be able to withstand this damage. And now I can hopefully make it to double Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw number 1 into Solgaleo is going to connect, and I get the farm down barely. I do leave with some energy. Is the opponent going to send in the Slowbro? Yes, I'm going for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is going to be hitting for neutral damage. Slowbro able to withstand it, and I aggressively switch into the Garchomp. I believe this was the first battle that I did, and I hadn't yet given it Sand Tomb. I was running it with Earth Power and Outrage. I need a farm down here, but the Slowbro lives on 1 HP. Ice Beam, double super effective. In the back, they have Yveltal. If I was able to get that farm down, that's a winnable game. And that game was what inspired me to switch to Sand Tomb. Don't worry, I have a bunch of elite charge TMs, so I will be able to get Earth Power back as needed. But man, if I had Sand Tomb that game, I just win. But unfortunately, I do not, so I end up taking the loss. Hopping into the final match, leading Metagross into Mega Steelix. Steelix farming up a massive amount of energy. They have to get all the way to an Earthquake to deal any meaningful damage. In comes Ho-Oh, and I'm going to bank my energy and send in Kyurem. Kyurem going for that Glaciate. That's something I love about Kyurem, the ability to just debuff opponents. Because Kyurem, it has a pretty solid stat product, but it's not nearly as good as something like Dialga. However, with the debuff move of Glaciate, it allows it to be so much more competitive. I decide to commit the shield and go for the farm down here, as this way, I get to leave with energy, and I get to debuff the Steelix. As that way, hopefully, the Earthquake is not going to be getting the KO. Back in comes the Steelix, and I'm firing off the Glaciate. Glaciate into the Steelix, will be no-shielded. Steelix gets the farm down. I send in the Metagross, and I decide to bait. I'm feeling risky, but they have so much energy on the Steelix, and I get the shield. That's massive. They have a ton of energy on this Steelix. I decide to call it. They're debuffed, and it's a breaking swipe. That's massive. And now I'm going for the kill shot with the Earthquake. Are they willing to shield? Yes, they are. They're farming up energy. Honestly, at this point, I've lost count. I decide to shield. It's the breaking swipe. That's really bad. But then they throw. This cannot be an Earthquake. So my opponent must be running Heavy Slam as the second move on the Mega Steelix. So that way, honestly, I'm in kind of an okay spot now. They're going to be firing off another breaking swipe. My attack has been debuffed to nothing now. I'm going for the Earthquake, but I've taken so many breaking swipes. The Earthquake doesn't even KO. You've got to be kidding me. Steelix makes the last second move. And this is going to be tough. I just have to hope that Garchomp can beat whatever is in the back. I send in the Garchomp, and it's a Kyurem. It's a race. Dragon Tail shredding through the Kyurem, but Kyurem outpaces by a single turn. Glaciate gets the one-hit KO. Back in comes the Metagross, and on 1 HP, Metagross makes the Meteor Mash, taking down Kyurem, and that's a good game. All in all, Mega Garchomp is absolutely in the upper echelon when it comes to the Mega Master League. This thing has a massive stat product, as we've seen from regular Garchomp in the Master League, a really good moveset, and now its stats are just so much better. I would say in the grand scheme of things, the Primals still definitely reign supreme, but as we saw, this thing can do pretty okay into the Primals, which I would say is a pretty good barometer of it being a top contender when it comes to the Mega Master League. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.